Okay, so welcome back, Francis. Nice to see you again. Good chat. So let's dive into today's email, and it'll lead us into the lesson, which is just a short review lesson. And then you see it to go. So give me a moment to get the live stream going. And I'll share my screen with you. The internet seems to be a bit slow.
Yeah, I was just thinking that the connection's gone.
All right, so that's done. And let me share my screen. Okay. Right, today's lesson. Okay, let's do. Yeah, share my screen. Okay, if you can read that that quote for us. You want me to make it a bit bigger? Let's make it zoom in a bit. You can read this quote, which is very good, I think, given our conversation for you. So read it aloud.
Yeah. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightened us. We ask ourselves, who might be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We are born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fears, our presence automatically liberates others. From Marianne. I like Marianne.
I've got some chats. Marianne Williamson.
Yeah, I really like her. I do listen to she's got a lot of free audiobooks on Audible.
Sorry, there was some sounded like a jet flying over.
Oh.
Didn't hear a word of that. So I muted myself. Yeah, it's a lovely quote, isn't it?
Yeah.
I heard you say Marianne Williamson was you enjoy her, and she's got lots of free audio books.
Yeah.
So she was one of the first who popularized the course, really. She started studying it, I think, the late 70s, early 80s. And she wrote a book called The Return to Love, which Oprah Winfrey got hold of. And then she went on the Oprah show. And, that just blew it all up. And suddenly her book was a bestseller. And that, is what made her career as sort of one of the leading course teachers. And then she's written many books since, and now she's running for president of all things. Which I'm not sure about that one, but she
Oh,
obviously feels
really?
like
I think
she's called to do that. So
I think it'd be amazing, to be honest. I think it'd be absolutely amazing if she became president. It'd be
well, it would be it would be quite miraculous, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I think she's just running for so it's kind of making a statement. So it's like, I think she's going to win. I mean, the incumbent, I didn't realize political system, you could actually have another, if the existing president was could go for a second term, then I thought that was just a done deal. He was the candidate, but apparently they could still look at others. But I mean, realistically, it's not going to happen. He's the incumbent president. They're not going to say, "Oh, let's put Marianne instead." It's a huge political risk for the Democrats, because they might likely lose. And she is still, these principles are not commonly accepted. And most people don't get or understand these. So she's got a lot of criticism for, like, so-called outlandish views of, like, well, it's all miraculous, and trust spirit, and the body is an illusion, and this is not common thinking at all. So, but she's putting it out there, and at least making people aware. Okay, there is another way of thinking. There's another way of looking at the world. And it did get picked up. It was interesting. We're talking about the political system and stuff in South Africa. Nelson Mandela used this quote in his first speech on the day he was released from prison after 27 years. So he must have read the book, some of the book, while he was in prison. And the last few years, he wasn't really in prison. He was kind of under house arrest, but he was in quite a nice house. And he had access, the whole time, to books and so on. So remarkable man, really. He'd really trained himself. He'd done a lot of mind training in his 27 years. It was like spiritual practice, to really let go of, the ego's thought system to a large degree. And he understood the principles of forgiveness, no doubt. And you look at how he came out, and what he did in South Africa. It clearly was influenced by these principles of radical forgiveness. And so she might have been instrumental, and we don't know. I think he probably read other books as well. Whether he read A Course in Miracles or not, I don't know. I suspect maybe he didn't, but he'd read A Return to Love, which was giving the key ideas of it, and he quoted this in his speech. So a lot of people think it was him who said it, but actually it was taken from her book. So without him reading this book, and through it being exposed to the concept of radical forgiveness, as Yeshua teaches it in A Course in Miracles, perhaps South Africa's history would be very different. Perhaps he wouldn't have understood forgiveness in the way he did. It could have gone a very different way if you'd had a leader who was angry, vengeful, bitter, and wanted to take revenge for his incarceration and all the hardships done to him and his people. Then we wouldn't have had the kind of transformation that we did. It was a peaceful transformation and a voluntary relinquishing of power by one race group to another. That's never happened before in history. Normally there's a fight. It ends up being a war, because those in power don't want to let go. But it was quite extraordinary that there was a letting go on both sides, and therefore a peaceful resolution could come. And I lived through that. So it was quite extraordinary, because it all looked at one stage pretty dark, and like it was going towards civil war. And then these two men on both sides came in, and they both had a higher awareness. Nelson had done his own spiritual practice for 27 years, which is probably the best thing that could have happened for him in the country, because he, the 27 years was like spiritual practice. He lived like a monk. He lived in a little cell, and just a very kind of ascetic lifestyle. But he studied. He had time to read and to study and to contemplate and to meditate. And he came out a transformed human being because of that. And 27 years before, he was quite angry. He was bitter. He was angry. He'd initiated the armed struggle in the 60s. It was like, right, we've got to fight these guys. And he came out with a completely different attitude. So, that's how spirit works. It's like, well, was it a bad thing he was in prison for 27 years? Not necessarily. It was what was necessary to transform the whole country. And then the guy on the other side, who was a guy called F.W. de Klerk, who led the Nationalist Party, he said he had a calling from God. God spoke to him and said, you have to find a way out of this mess, and you have to find peace, and you have to avoid a civil war. And he felt that divine calling at that time, and so he was willing to let go and to meet his brother at the table and talk, and not just dig his heels in like his predecessor, and say, well, we're never going to give up power, because it was inevitable that one way or another they had to. It wasn't a sustainable system. So it was either going to happen peacefully or it was going to happen by force. So pretty amazing, what this forgiveness can do on a national scale. And I've seen it, I've witnessed it in my life, the power of it. And then Yeshua himself, did the same thing 2,000 years earlier by forgiving his apparent persecutors as he was dying on the cross, expressing his forgiveness in this famous line. You want to read that?
Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do. Luke 23:34.
They know not what they do. One of the most famous lines in the Bible. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. On the cross, so the worst thing possible has happened to you. This is a brutal death. You've been pinned to this cross, drowning in your own body fluids, because that's apparently what happens. A slow, agonizing death, and yet he has the awareness to still say, okay, I'm still connected to my source, and I'm still asking for forgiveness. And he said the words, so that they would be recorded. He'd done his own forgiveness, and was probably quite surrendered, going, okay, well, this is how I'm leaving, this human experience. And he knew he'd resurrect. So it's like, okay, well, I just got to go through this, temporary one day of hell, really, because it was like a night and then the next day, 24 hours of really, unpleasant experience. But he did it because the the example that was set for all time is profound. We still talk about it, and because of that example of radical forgiveness, it changed the world. It's an essential part of the legacy he left that led to the development of the Christian religion. Without the resurrection and the crucifixion, most important, it was both, as a demonstration of the truth that he taught through his life, then probably Christianity wouldn't have come into the religion that it became. It was that final drama of his life, and the resurrection that showed his disciples that what he taught was true, and they saw it, for themselves in the flesh. Guys, come back from the dead. Therefore, death cannot be real. Therefore, they felt inspired to go out and preach this gospel to the known world, and that's what spread it. And over 2,000 years, the Christian religion has had a fundamental impact on certainly Western civilization, but you could argue on Eastern as well, because these ideas didn't exist before, perhaps in the East, but the idea of forgiveness, idea of compassion, these were not prevalent certainly in Western philosophy at all. And so they came into kind of mainstream, and the church then became the dominant power for 1,000 years. And although it still believed in sin and guilt, and much of the message was distorted, there was still this teaching of God's grace, and that there is, there is way out, and there is hope, and there is forgiveness. This is all in the Bible. I don't really understand what forgiveness means, because it's not radical, but it was a start of cracking the shell of the ego. And now I think this is the second coming. 2,000 years later, the course and all the spiritual awakening that's going on via the course and other teachings is the second coming of Christ, where we awaken to the truth that Yeshua demonstrated. So can you see from these two examples of people who lived so-called great lives 2 millennia apart, that there's an integral connection between what's been called greatness, which is really just the power to influence millions of people positively, and the ability to forgive or let go of grievances and see only the love stemming from the ultimate source of love, or Father, as Yeshua called his presence on the cross that fateful day. That's what greatness is. If you say someone has a great life, it's not about the accomplishments, it's not about the money they've made, the power. We don't think of, let's take a modern example of someone who's prominent, say Donald Trump. He'll never go down as a great man, because he didn't do anything that was transcendent. Greatness comes from the transcendent, from the willingness to let go of your ego and do something that transcends the little self. So it's not about manifesting so-called big things in the dream of this world, because it is only a dream. To give value to the dream is to enslave our minds to the ego's rule, which is the belief in separation in all its forms, and remain asleep and dreaming. Rather, true greatness is about allowing the source of all life and love to guide us in all our thoughts, words, and actions while we're seemingly living in the dream world. And if you really do that and you live it, then that's going to reflect in your thoughts, words, and actions. And sometimes, the confluence of that awareness with the person's life and what they called on to do means it comes into very public prominence. So Nelson Mandela is an example. Martin Luther, we discussed over the weekend, showed the movie, and various others. Think of Mahatma Gandhi or Martin Luther King Jr. In the last 100 years. These were people who stood for something transcendent. Nelson Mandela, obvious one. They stood for something greater than themselves, and they were willing to walk that talk at great personal cost. Nelson Mandela went to prison for 27 years, was estranged from his family. Gandhi and Martin Luther King were both assassinated. Yeshua was crucified. So it's not an easy path to walk necessarily, but they inspire us, because they demonstrated something beyond the thought system of fear, guilt, anger, hatred, all the negative blocks to awareness of love's presence that make up the ego. So all we can do to live great lives doesn't mean we're gonna do something that's necessarily world changing, but we can follow their example and do it in our own lives by systematically letting go of any negative blocks to the awareness of love's presence. So I say negative because they negate the truth: guilt, fear, anger, hatred, sin, attack thoughts, jealousy, rage, and everything that makes up the ego's thought system. All these thoughts and emotions that are not loving are blocks to the awareness of love's presence, and they negate or block this truth of who we are. So all we can do is let them go as we become aware of it. This liberates our minds from their self-created prison and sets us free to love and to be loved again. And it's only this unconditional love manifesting through our words and actions that is the source of true greatness. So remember this the next time you're tempted to believe in the littleness in which your ego wants you to believe by fearing, judging, and condemning others. Extreme examples of Nelson to help you let go of these imprisoning thoughts and emotions, so they can be examples. After all, if they could let go of fear, anger, and condemnation in such extremely trying and tempting circumstances, surely you can do the same in the face of much less extreme temptations. And Yeshua actually says this is the correct interpretation of the crucifixion. It's just a lesson, a high-level lesson in radical forgiveness, saying, well, if I could do it in that extreme situation, I could still forgive, then what's your excuse? Why can't you do it? You know, someone has done something or said something you don't like. I mean, they're not crucifying you, they're not murdering you, letting you drown in your own body fluids, whipping you. No, you know, hardly. You're never probably going to face that in your life because it doesn't happen anymore in civilized society. So what's your excuse? Why can't you let it go? The theory is simple, but you know, it's a lot easier said than done because our egos resist letting go of these blocks to the awareness of love's presence for dear life, because these blocks are their life. You know, the blocks of fear and guilt and sin and attack thoughts are what make up the ego's thought system. That's what it is. So when we let them go, then you let go of it. And this is why Yesh has given us daily mind training lessons to help us to practice letting go of our ego's negativity as we become aware of it and experience the love, peace, and joy and other great gifts that characterize greatness, which is what radical forgiveness brings. So the reason we do radical forgiveness, you said, well, why do it? Well, because it's going to bring you a lot of love, peace, joy, and that's a much happier way to live your life than living it in sin, guilt, fear, and attack thoughts. Okay, so any questions on any of that? It brings us to the session, which is where we're at, reading and discussing it, and leads us nicely into our lesson. Any thoughts, comments, or questions, Francis?
No, it's good. It's good. It's what I need to hear, I think. No accidents.
And you know, if you look in history, although none of it's ultimately real, but you know, you can learn from these experiences. And that's really what it's for. It's you know, all of these things we see in the dream are there to help us to awaken. So if you feel inspired by the example of Yeshua, of Nelson Mandela, or anyone else, you know, they are symbols in the dream of this Holy Spirit's thought system, really, you know, and of its power. You know, when you see it demonstrated, then how can you doubt that it's there? You know, that these people lived their lives by another thought system, and it was transformative and very powerful and very beneficial for themselves and millions of others. In the case of, you know, these great men and women, they influenced millions through their example.
Yeah.
And you know, that's inspiring. So, well, I may not be able to influence millions necessarily. I mean, Spirit's not limiting you, but not everyone has that path to walk. You know, he had a particular, someone like Nelson had a particular destiny. That was his life's destiny. That was what he was called on to do by the Spirit. Not everyone will be called on to, you know, go and do that. But nevertheless, you can live those principles in your life, and they can be transformative in your family life, in your social network, in your community. You know, it makes a difference. And then, you know, on a maybe a smaller scale, but you can positively affect and influence perhaps tens, hundreds of people in your lifetime, and perhaps more, you know, depending on what you feel called to do. With the power of the internet now, you know, you can reach potentially hundreds of thousands or millions of people via these technologies. You know, we streaming live on YouTube. There's no reason why 100,000 people couldn't watch it and be influenced. So it's quite an extraordinary time, really. And I think we've got to embrace that and say, well, we're here for a reason at this time, in this place. We're here to awaken, and we're here to awaken others. And that's our only purpose. And you do that, you know, in and through your special relationships and in your families and in your communities. It's not like you go, oh, I'm just disconnecting from these. No, that's part of the, you know, that's where the awakening happens. In and through those relationships, the interactions you have with others, your thoughts, your words, your actions on a daily basis. So it's transformative in your life. He's not asking you to, you know, to check out and leave your life behind, which can be tempting. You know, the ultimate version of that is suicide. But you know, on a lower level, people might say, well, I'll just abandon all this and I'll go to a monastery or ashram or something and just check out and, you know, focus on the spiritual path. And he's saying, well, you could do that, but actually the quickest way is learn these lessons in your daily life and apply them particularly to your relationships. That's the fast track, because then you get the opportunities to let go all the time, don't you? And as they come up, then you let them go, and so you're undoing the ego much faster than if you go, oh, I don't want the challenges. Let me run away from them to a quiet, safe haven where I can just have peace and sit in meditation for contemplation for a lot of the day. So you're exactly where you need to be, and you can just apply these teachings to your daily experiences, your family, your partner, your work life, social life, etc. All of it is part of the process of letting go. Okay, so leads us to the lesson, which is a very short, sweet one. A review lesson. So let me just get the recording going quickly, and I'll bring up. Where are we? Let's just get 7 I think I want. Yeah, there we go. That's 172. Okay. So we'll skip the. It's worth reading the introduction. So Francis, if you want to read the introduction, 12 paragraphs. So we don't have time for that, but we did it in yesterday's session. It's included in the document. I'll include it every day because it's really the instructions to practice the lessons. So read it, and there's an executive summary of it as well, key message, and then the lesson is very short and sweet. It's just a review of 2 of the previous lessons we did. So this is lesson 153 and 154, I believe. So if you read that, just I think read it in the. So what he suggests is you do the sort of key idea that ties them together, and then you read the lesson, and then you read the key idea again, and then read the second lesson and read the key idea again. So do it in that sequence and just kind of feel into it as you go.
Okay. Yes. God is but love, and therefore so am I. God is only love, and therefore so am I. In my defencelessness, my safety lies.
Okay. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like that one. The in my defensiveness, my safety lies, because it feels unguarded. It feels relaxed. Like I always think about when you're drowning and you go into a panic, and then the first thing you do, your body gets frigid and you start sinking. Whereas if you just relax, you just automatically float to the top and you're safe. Like it's the natural thing. Like our bodies are so buoyant when we're relaxed. And it's only really when the panic comes in that our body gets heavy. So I always think of that. And it's not easy to relax.
And our defensiveness makes fear real, doesn't it? That's the problem. What he's saying is very profound. If you defend against anything, then you made fear real, and then you tighten up and you're not relaxed. You can't relax when you're fearful. So it's fear and stress are really the same thing. Stress is just the perception of some kind of external threat. That's all stress is. I'm being threatened, and I feel that, and so I'm not feeling at peace here. I'm feeling on edge. I'm feeling worried. It's all a result of fear, which is defensive. And you go, oh, now I need to defend against that. And then the ego tells you, well, take appropriate defense. So do something on the level of form to defend yourself against the apparent threat. And, the world is dedicated to that insane belief. So then we have all kinds of defensive measures, whether it's insurance policies, or it's, wearing protective clothing, the whole COVID thing, the vaccines. It goes on and on, doesn't it? Of, defensive measures that we take. to try and make us safe, but actually we're still stressed because the fear is still there. The defenses make the fear real. They say, well, the fear is real, and so you've got to do something about it to counter it. Well, they just made they've made it all real in your mind, haven't they? It's very cunning of the ego. So, the answer is, well, my safety lies in my defenselessness. If I'm defenseless, then I don't acknowledge the reality of these things. Then I don't fear. I don't have to feel the stress, and these things can go away. I don't need to be worried about them, and then they can disappear from my reality. And people will go, the materialist people will go, oh, but that's not realistic because they exist. But do they really, or do they just exist in your mind? See, that's the question. Are they just a self-created reality? They're part of your self-created dream world. And if you cease to believe in them, they'll disappear. Well, this is the teaching. The mind is creating your reality. So yes, if you let them go, then how can they be there if there's no belief in them? And so then the answer is to let them go, and that becomes the best way of changing your reality. And that is what forgiveness does. So that's why miracles happen when you really radically let go. But it's on a different level from conscious manifestation. It's not like, oh, I'm doing this because I want something externally. No, you're actually just letting go of the blocks to the awareness of love's presence in your own mind, and then allowing whatever happens on the external to show up. So it's a very different thought system than trying to consciously manifest something outside of you, which then supposedly is going to make you happy, which is the whole secret law of attraction idea. But that's an illusion, because nothing outside of you is going to make you happy. It's a form of idolatry. Only letting go of all the blocks to awareness of love's presence will make you happy. Okay? Any other thoughts on that? Otherwise, read the key linking idea again. God is only love.
God is only love, and therefore so am I. I am among the ministers of God. I am among the teachers of perfect love.
Oh, any thoughts on that one?
No, it's self-explanatory, really, isn't it? I am among the teachers of God, and the fact that I think that I've come to this work, to the Course in Miracles, it kind of proves that I am among the teachers of perfect love. Because I wouldn't be here now. I wouldn't be with the Course if I wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. And this translation makes it a bit more acceptable. Ministers of God can be like I'm not a minister of God. I don't sit and preach in church or anything. But that's not what he's talking about. The ministers of God in this image that I use. That's Yeshua, the Buddha, Lao Tzu, and Socrates. So they were all ministers of God. They were all teachers of love in their time. That left a profound message for humanity that influences us to this day. We talk about these people; they inspire us still. We don't talk about the rulers of the time, and the leaders and the wealthy merchants, and those are all long dead and gone and forgot, aren't they? But we remember the teachers because they stood for something eternal, and so that's their legacy. Because what they stood for was eternal, it lasts, and it carries down the ages. And so you can be that too. Your life can leave an indelible stamp, a legacy for others to follow, which is the most inspiring thing you can do with it. To become what else are you going to do? A teacher of perfect love. Whatever you're doing, you can express that in many ways. You could be just a housewife. You could be I know you've got a healing business. You could become an author. There's many ways you can express it, and so each one of us have our own kind of special function to express it. But the message is the same. It's teaching this perfect love that's within us.
Then God is only love.
Okay, so and then just
God is only love, and therefore so am I.
so what do you feel about that statement? Does it evoke anything, any thoughts, feelings?
No, it feels the same. It feels kind of like that connection to perfect love awareness. It's like this is the perfect love's awareness, and then I am that. Like it just feels like that is me and it is I, and that inseparable.
Yeah, which is the whole idea. The words point you into the state of awareness, of unity. I am that. I am that awareness.
Yeah.
And that's so simple. This is not rocket science, is it? It's just I am that loving awareness. That's my true nature. That's who I really am. And none of the illusions I've made up can actually deny that, fortunately. So just to remember, when you're in the ego's illusions, that I am still what I am, and this loving awareness is still there. It hasn't gone away. It's temporarily obscured, but it's still available. It's accessible to me, and letting go is the way that I access it. Again, letting go of the blocks. So it's a very simple teaching, isn't it? This isn't rocket science. It's logical. It's simple. Okay, you've got blocks over this awareness. All you got to do is let go of the blocks, and then the awareness will be there because it's your fundamental awareness. You don't have to become it. You don't have to try and make yourself into something you're not. You just have to let go of what you're not to become what you are. So it's much more about cutting away than adding, which is the primary difference between this and, say, a personal growth type teaching. Personal growth, like, you're not okay as you are, you're a bit deficient and dysfunctional, but if you do this and this and this, whatever practices, tools, techniques they give you, then you'll become a better self. So you improve yourself and you become an expanded bigger self. That's the idea, isn't it? Yeah. And then they get you on that track, and it's always desiring to be better, always striving. Well, I'm not happy as I am, but I'm working towards becoming better, and then one day the assumption is that I'll be happy. But of course, you're on this track of desiring, you're never going to attain that, because desire means that you're never satisfied with what you have. So it's a self-reinforcing system of dissatisfaction, which is really what the Buddha noticed 2,500 years ago. He said, well, desire is the source of all suffering for that reason, because you'll never find happiness. So this is just saying, well, let it all go, let go of all of that, and just accept the base nature that you are. It's already there. Just drop into that and accept that you already are there, and you're perfect as you are. And then be inspired from that state. So the skeptics will go, oh, well, that's going to mean if I don't have desire, I'm not going to do anything. But that's not the case, because you can be inspired instead of desiring some kind of form outcome. Okay, well, I need to make something happen to get what I want. You're going, no, I'm actually okay as I am, but I feel inspired. I feel like I want to extend this feeling of happiness, peace, love, joy outwards, and maybe I feel inspired to do that in a certain way. That might be speaking, writing, teaching, healing. There's music, arts. There's many forms that can take, but now it's an inside out. It's it's coming from the depth within me of connection to my source, and the peace and the love and the joy that are already there. And now I'm like, well, I just want to share those. So I extend those. There's a natural impulse to extend it, not because I want anything, not because I need anything, just because it feels right to share it. And so it's a very different motivation. The one is outside in. I need to get something to make me happy, and I'm feeling deficient, which is never going to work, because you just keep feeling deficient, as we see with examples of celebrities and A-type personalities who go on this path, and they get a lot, and they're still not happy. So, they're the demonstration that particular thought system doesn't work. And then, the opposite is like, well, let go on the spiritual path, find, this base level of acceptance of who I am, and then feel inspired to act from that. And, examples of people who've acted powerfully, people like, the Yeshua, the Buddha, Nelson Mandela, and Martin Luther King Jr., Mahatma Gandhi. We talked about these great people who have acted from a state of inspiration consistently, and they've made a profound impact on the world. And that's the difference between inspiration and motivation. Were they motivated to do it, or were they inspired to do it? You don't go and walk the kind of path they walked if you're looking for short-term fixes. They didn't do what they did because they were like, oh, this is gonna gratify my short-term needs. It's going to bring me more pleasure, more power, more fame. It wasn't about that, was it? It was about, I'm doing this because it feels right. It's the deepest core of my being telling me that this is what I need to do, because there's someone's got to bring this teaching into the world. So they were the teachers of love. So it's inspiration versus motivation, and it's a different energy completely. Inspiration is miraculous, motivation is magic, and ultimately won't work, and be quite short-term and short-lived. Okay, so any other thoughts on that? You said you needed to go, so if you need to pop off, then by all means.
Okay, thank you.
We can do I'm happy to do a meditation on it if you have some more time, but
yeah, I can do a meditation. Yeah, I can stay another couple of minutes. Yeah, a meditation would be good.
Oh, okay, till 3 o'clock. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do a med on this. Give me a moment to get that all set up. Okay. So just making yourself comfortable, sitting in your favorite meditation posture, feet shoulder width apart, your back straight, cup your hands in your lap, close your eyes, and start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Pausing at top of the inhale. Smile. Scan your mind. So just notice any disturbing thoughts and emotions, and use them as part of this practice. So any fear, anxiety, attack thoughts, irritation, an attack thought, frustration, maybe some sin and guilt, depression, sadness, anything like that. Just notice it. Notice the thoughts, notice the feelings. And just breathe into it. So a nice deep breath in. Through the nose. And you feel like you're breathing in this loving awareness this lesson points to. So say, God is only love. God is only love, and therefore so am I. You can state that aloud as an affirmation. If you state it aloud, it comes into manifestation, becomes more real, more tangible, more powerful. God is only love, and therefore so am I. Exhale, and the truth of that. As you exhale, have a sense of just releasing and letting go of any darkness, whatever limited awareness, contracted, constricted thoughts, emotions, just let them go, blow them out in the breeze of your breath, the nothingness they really are. Pull the lower stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out. And just rest in this deep, peaceful state. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do. You just surrender to the love that you are, which is defenseless. So first review lesson for today is, in my defenselessness, my safety lies, or my safety lies in my defenselessness. I prefer to say that way. Safety lies in my defenselessness. And breathe in again. It's defenseless energy, it's fearless, loving awareness. Nothing to defend against. There's nothing to defend against. Then what remains is pure, formless awareness of perfect love. So if you're defenseless, then there is no fear, there is no attack. The ego's thought system has collapsed. There's nothing outside of you to fear. You are just peaceful, calm, happy, in a state of grace. So breathe in that state of grace, this loving awareness. Remind yourself that God is only love, and therefore, so am I. And you breathe this loving awareness into every pore of your body, every cell, every muscle, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being is in this loving awareness. Feel into this, embrace it, feel it in every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being is infused, enveloped, encompassed by this loving awareness. Say, God is only love, and therefore so am I. And you breathe that in, you embrace it, you accept it fully, deeply, completely at the deepest level of your mind, into your heart. Feel into your heart center, put one hand on your heart, and you breathe in this loving awareness. Remind yourself that I am among the teachers of perfect love. So I have this loving awareness. I can also extend this loving awareness. As I extend this loving awareness, I teach it to others. I can become an inspiration to others. And as you exhale out through the mouth, have a sense of extending this loving awareness. The love of God, it's been called divine love, agape love, unconditional love, a love that transcends the human condition, that is not reliant on what anyone has said or done or not done or said. A love that just is because of what they are in truth, because of their true nature, their divine nature, and yours. You love everyone unconditionally. This is the love of God. This is the perfect love that you're here to experience and to teach. So accept that. Say, I'm among the teachers of perfect love, because God is only love, and therefore so am I. Again, you breathe that in, you embrace it. To every pore, cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being is in this loving awareness. You embrace it. You are into it, surrender to it. You are it, it is you. There is no separation between you and it. It's one awareness, your own true awareness, which you are now aware of, which may have been denied. You may have denied it for many years, but that doesn't matter, because right now, in this wholly aware moment, in the now, you are aware of it. It is here, present in your awareness. And you merge with it, you accept it as who you really are. Your own true awareness revealing itself finally to you. And there's nowhere else to go. And nothing else to do. Nothing else to think about. And just breathe in and out through your nose. Let that just happen. Relax and surrender into this loving awareness. It's who you are. It's really an effort to be who you are. Shouldn't be. Just surrender to it. Just accept it and stay in this state of grace. Pure, formless awareness of perfect love in your awareness. Telling you that this is who you really are. And one more time, God is only love, and therefore so am I, and then rest in this presence, in this awareness. No more words are needed, no more pointers. Just go into the direct experience of this awareness for the next few minutes of deep contemplative silence. Any thoughts come up to seemingly disturb this pure formless awareness of perfect love. Remind yourself that in my defenselessness, my safety lies. The defensive thoughts, fearful thoughts, attack thoughts, all part of that defense attack system of the ego. So in my defenselessness, my safety lies. Breathe in the love of God. Say God is only love, and therefore so am I. And so I can let this go. It's just an illusion designed to sabotage my loving awareness, cover it over, and confirm to me that my ego, my sense of a separate self that denies the love of God is real. Recognizing this illusion, it's a setup. I'm willing to let it go. With the help of your breath, just exhale, blow it out. Going, gone. Lower stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out. And you rest in loving awareness. Nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, just surrender into this loving awareness. Just be for the next couple of minutes of deep, peaceful silence. So just gently coming back from this deep connected state of awareness into awareness of your body and the breath, senses and the world. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, notice how the stomach rises and the chest rises and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils, and you pause. Top of the inhale, smile. Scan your mind, so notice thoughts, emotions, Any related body sensations going on? Breathe into those. If there's anything untoward that feels unpleasant, negative of love, then just remind yourself that God is only love. Therefore, so am I, and in my defenselessness, my safety lies. And so you just blow it all away. You don't have to defend against it. You just have to let it go and restore your mind to the blue sky, pure formless awareness, and blow away the clouds. Store your awareness into this brilliant blue sky of your mind, the light of your source shining through it. Open, expansive, clear awareness. And you just set the intention to stay in this awareness for the rest of the afternoon and evening. To help you do that, practice today's lesson frequently. So I've given you a short breath break to help you do that, 6 minutes, but that's too long. Follow the written instructions in your Telegram or email message to do it in under a minute. Just bring it to mind, breathe. Very much a miniature of what we just done, where you breathe in, you observe thoughts and emotions and body sensations, and then you let go. In the exhale, bring in the key idea of the lesson. God is only love, and therefore so am I, and my defenses and my safety lies. And you use those to help you release the help of your breath as you exhale, and that should keep you topped up and in the peace of God, which is what I wish for you. So now on the count of 2, just notice the weight of your body, notice what you're feeling and touching. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth, a smell in your nose as you breathe in. Notice what you're hearing, but without judgment. So there's still this underlying presence, stillness, peace. You're still connected to that, even while you come back into sensory perceptions. And that underlies all of your sense perceptions. So now on the count of 3, open your eyes. Just look around. The visual sense is the most dominant for most people. So use it for a bit of mind training. For a minute or 2, just look at any object randomly selected around you, and notice this awareness that you experience with your eyes closed is still there. Close your eyes briefly as you look at the object. Feel that awareness. Then you open your eyes, notice the awareness is still there, even though your eyes are open. Nothing's really changed. So you're starting to learn this awareness is always there. It's the underlying awareness, which underlies all sense perceptions. Sense perceptions vary. Things come and go and shift about and move all the time, but this awareness is permanent. So as you scan the room, just notice various objects in the room around you. Look at anything for a few seconds and then move on, and notice that as you do that, this awareness is constant, it doesn't change. Close your eyes if you want, then open your eyes. You notice that it's the same awareness. And so you're teaching yourself through this simple exercise that this awareness is always there. God is always there. Love is always there. This awareness is loving awareness. It goes with you wherever you go because it's in your mind. It's lesson 30, I think, of it, or the workbook. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. So it's always there, always available to you. And then you live in the state of connection with your source. God is only love, and therefore so am I. And that becomes your moment by moment awareness. So that's what I wish for you for the afternoon and the evening and the week ahead until we meet again. So thanks for joining, Francis, and namaste. And that brings us to the end of the meditation and of the session.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Okay, Francis, yeah. Namaste.
Thank you. I'll talk
Keep
to
on
you.
keeping on.
Bye. Bye.
All right. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye. Okay, so I think we're gonna call the session there, but haven't done the text. So if anyone would like to join, we'll do the text this evening from 7 p.m. UK time. That's 8 p.m. SA time. To do today's text reading, which is section 7 of chapter 20 called The Consistency of Means and End. A good section. So join me then. I'll put a message on the group, and I've sent the document already. If you happen to be watching this and you're not a member, then join the masterclass. I'll put a link below this coming Sunday to join us and find out more about this program, how you can get involved, how you can join these live sessions and use it to undo your ego and find eternal peace, happiness, and a very happy dream while you're here. So hope to catch you on the inside. You can also subscribe to the channel if you're not a subscriber already, and sign up to join us to receive inspirational information every day. Links are all below in the comments box below this YouTube video. So thanks, and namaste. See you on the inside soon, I hope.